Hey everyone, and welcome back to Under Baobab Skies. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. The wind whispers through the rolling hills of Venda, a place where mountains touch vast plains. Here, the sky isn't just a ceiling. It's a living, breathing canvas of endless possibility, often shadowed with the beautiful promise of rain. The people of Venda have always understood a profound truth. Life itself rests in the delicate balance of earth and sky. The soil only truly yields its bounty when the clouds finally open up, and the streams swell only when the spirits of the past nod in agreement. It's under this sacred, ancient understanding that the incredible rainmakers of Venda walk their unique path. Their journey is anything but easy, and often not fully visible to the outside world. The secrets they guard are older than memory itself, older even than the tallest baobab tree you could imagine. These incredible individuals are entrusted with so much more than just the water that nourishes the crops. They hold the very pulse of the community in their hands. In their care, the sky can be gentle, sustaining life with its soft blessings, or it can be harsh, leaving the earth parched and silent in its absence. By the end of our time together today, you truly understand that to serve as a Venda Rainmaker is to walk a tightrope, delicate balance between profound devotion and very real danger, between immense power and humbling humility. These are not just ordinary practitioners. They are deeply connected souls. From the moment a child is first whispered into the possibilities of rain, a truly extraordinary journey begins. Families watch with bated breath, elders listen intently, and the land itself waits, almost holding its breath for what is to come. Let's just pause for a moment here. The fire crackles gently beside us as the night breathes around us. Outside, the shadows of the hills stretch long and deep across the plains, and you can almost see the first hint of mist rising softly from the valleys. In this quiet hush, if you listen closely enough, you can almost hear the slow, patient heartbeat of the rain itself, awaiting its ritual call. In the timeless villages of Venda, countless tales are told of the Rainmakers' ancestors. Some stories speak of a long-ago time when a terrible drought threatened entire clans. A young rainmaker, guided by powerful spirits, raised her arms to the sky, and, in a moment of pure magic, the clouds bowed in obedience, releasing their life-giving waters. Other stories are much quieter, whispered in hushed corners, tales of those who perhaps failed, reminded by empty, unforgiving skies that nature demands profound respect, never pride. The selection of a new rainmaker is a deeply deliberate process, cloaked in layers of careful observation and spiritual insight. It often begins with the children, their innocent curiosity, their unique responsiveness to the whispers of the wind, their innate sensitivity to the natural rhythms of rainfall. Elders watch keenly, noting those who speak of dreams with unusual depth, or whose laughter seems to echo with the gentle patter of unseen rains. These are the chosen candidates, picked not by mere human desire, but by something much grander, destiny itself. Each child is guided slowly, patiently, toward understanding this profound connection. They learn that every single drop of water is sacred, that the intricate patterns of wind and cloud are not just accidents, but vital messages. Their training begins with deep listening, with profound stillness. Even a simple breeze is treated as a wise teacher. To the untrained eye, the land might seem ordinary, but to the rainmaker in training, every trembling leaf, every bird's flight, and every subtle cloud movement carries a story, waiting to be interpreted. Through immense patience and meticulous observation, the first crucial lessons emerge. Names of sacred herbs, ancient chants for purification, and specific movements to honor their ancestors become more than just rote memory, they become the very framework of their spiritual connection. It's not enough to just know the steps. The spirit must deeply understand them, must truly inhabit them, until the apprentice's own heartbeat syncs perfectly with the sacred rhythm of the rain itself. Let's just pause for another moment. The fire still crackles gently as the night breathes around us. Now, a distant river hums softly, reflecting the warm glow of our embers. This is the very rhythm that the Rainmaker learns to recognize and respect, subtle yet utterly unrelenting. The path of a Rainmaker is solitary in its devotion, yet deeply communal in its support. While the Rainmaker walks this unique journey, the entire village participates indirectly. Families provide crucial guidance, nourishing meals, and countless stories. Elders share their precious memories of past successes and, yes, even past failures. The young apprentice slowly begins to understand that the gift of rain is never theirs alone. It belongs to everyone. It is a shared responsibility. A sacred pact between the one who communes with the sky and those who rely completely on their skill. The early days of training are marked by trials of endurance. Long hours are spent patiently in the fields, feeling the texture of the soil, listening intently for subtle changes in the wind and temperature. Days pass without notice. The sun rises and falls, yet sometimes no rain appears. Patience is cultivated not as some abstract virtue, but as an absolute necessity for life itself. The apprentice is taught a fundamental truth. Force cannot summon renownedly profound respect, ancient ritual, and deep readiness can. Through soulful songs, rhythmic dance, and profound meditation, the young Rainmaker slowly begins to embody the very spirit of the clouds. Each chant is so much more than just a rhythm. It is a prayer, a careful observation, and powerful guidance, all condensed into sound. Each movement aligns their body with the wind and water, embedding the very flow of weather into their bones. This is the incredible world into which the Venda Rainmaker is born, rigorously trained and ultimately initiated. It is a world built on patience, deep reverence, and a humbling recognition of human smallness beneath the vast, powerful sky. Every ritual, every teaching, every soft whisper from the elders is a delicate stitch in the magnificent tapestry that connects earth and heaven. Let's pause once more. The fire crackles gently as the night breathes around us. In the darkness, the majestic silhouettes of hills and acacia trees shift like the very breath of ancient spirits. The world feels vast, yet incredibly intimate, as if the land itself waits patiently for the stories of rain to truly unfold. You are now under baobab skies, and the story starts now. The sun rose slowly over the Venda hills, casting long shadows across clay huts and ochre paths. Here, in this quiet corner of the world, the wind spoke not only through the rustling of leaves, but in subtle patterns only some could hear. The Rainmakers listened, and from these patterns, the first seeds of a future practitioner were often revealed. The selection of a Rainmaker began not with a grand ceremony, but with quiet observation. Elders would watch the children at play, their eyes trained to notice those whose curiosity seemed to align with the very rhythms of the earth. Did a child pause when a sudden breeze touched their skin, listening as if it spoke directly to them? Did their laughter seem to echo in perfect time with the distant thunder of approaching clouds? In the Venda tradition, even the smallest gestures could reveal a natural affinity for understanding the sky. A boy or a girl might be noticed for the way they tended a small garden, instinctively mimicking the care of rain and sun without even knowing why. Or perhaps they followed the birds to the nearest water source, sensing something unseen, an intuition that others simply ignored. These signs were subtle, yet the elders' eyes were trained to see them. These were the first whispers of a calling. Imagine it for a moment. The fire crackles gently as the night breathes around us. The hills rise in dark waves, and a soft mist rolls along the valleys. Even here, in the hush of early dawn, you can almost feel the weight of expectation settling on the chosen few. Once a child was identified, the elders would speak to their family, gauging their willingness and readiness. Rainmaking was not a simple task. It required devotion, discipline, and, most importantly, humility. Those who sought it lightly would find the sky indifferent to their efforts. The path demanded a deep reverence, a constant attunement to nature and spirit. The chosen apprentices were often brought to secluded sites, hillsides overlooking rivers, groves of ancient trees, or quiet plains where the wind blew freely. Here, the child learned the first and most fundamental lessons: stillness, observation, and listening. The elders emphasized that rain is never commanded, only invited. One could not shout at the clouds. One must learn to move in harmony with them, understanding their moods and their language. The earliest tests were designed to gauge sensitivity rather than knowledge. An apprentice might be asked to sit silently for hours, eyes closed, just feeling the direction and strength of the wind on their skin. They might be given simple herbs or stones and asked to sense their purpose, their connection to the elements. These exercises weren't about getting a right answer. They were about cultivating patience and awareness, the key qualities in a future rainmaker. Dreams were also incredibly significant. The elders paid close attention to the visions of the young. A child who dreamed of rivers swelling, clouds gathering, or rain pattering on clay roofs was noted carefully. Dreams were considered messages from the ancestors, offering guidance and affirmation of their potential. Interpreting these dreams required both wisdom and intuition. Let's pause for a moment. The fire crackles gently as the night breathes around us. In the dim light of dawn, shadows stretch across the valley, and every leaf seems to quiver with untold stories. For the apprentice, each day was beginning to feel like a conversation with the earth itself. Initiation into this ancient practice involved small, meaningful rituals designed to bond the apprentice with the ancestors. A piece of special clay might be placed in the child's hands, representing the very soil they would one day call upon to bring life. A sacred chant might be whispered, invoking the spirits who had guided rainmakers for generations. These rites were simple, yet profound, embedding the child within a lineage older than memory itself. The first lessons also hammered home the importance of humility. The apprentice learned that no rainmaker ever acts alone. Each one relies on the guidance of ancestors, the cooperation of nature, and the unwavering support of their village. Pride could unbalance the mind, and in a discipline like this, imbalance could lead to disaster, to drought or famine. The training quickly extended beyond just observation and into practical skill. The child learned to track clouds across the vast sky, to recognize the first subtle signs of approaching rain, and to interpret the minute changes in the wind's direction and tone. Every day was a lesson in patience, every moment a dialogue with the invisible forces that shape our world. Failure was not just expected, it was seen as instructive. The sky's silence wasn't a punishment, but a form of guidance, a lesson in itself. Social integration was also critical to this process. The apprentice wasn't trained in isolation. Families, neighbors, and village elders all contributed to their growth. They shared stories passed down through generations, provided context for the rituals, and ensured the child understood the sacred responsibility they were being asked to carry. Through this deep communal involvement, the apprentice was never truly alone, even though their path was a singular one. Let's pause again. The fire crackles gently as the night breathes around us. The wind sighs through the hills, carrying a sense of continuity, linking the past, the present, and the future. Each apprentice was a single thread being woven into the ancient tapestry of rainmakers, and the very fabric of the village depended on their strength and growth. The final step of this early phase involved a test of alignment. Guided by the elders, the apprentice would be asked to conduct a simple invocation, an invitation for clouds to gather over a nearby hill or river. Success wasn't measured in rainfall alone. It was measured in the child's presence, their focused attention, and their ability to connect with the unseen world. Those who faltered were guided patiently, their errors corrected not with criticism, but with demonstration, repetition, and prayer. By the time this first phase concluded, the apprentice carried a quiet, profound understanding deep within them. Rainmaking is not an act of force, but a dialogue. The earth, the sky, the spirits, and the people are all participants in this sacred conversation. Every gesture, every chant, and every moment of silence must respect the intricate balance that holds the world together. This was just the beginning of a journey that could span decades, a life measured not in years, but in seasons. The chosen few would carry the responsibility for their entire communities, entrusted with ensuring survival, abundance, and spiritual continuity. And in this beginning, beneath the wide African sky, the first whispers of their destiny were already taking shape. Let's pause one last time. The fire crackles gently as the night breathes round us. The apprentice stands quietly, feeling the wind on their skin and hearing the faint murmur of ancestors in the rustling trees. The journey has only just begun, but the first step has been taken with intention, reverence, and promise. Once an apprentice was chosen, the long, quiet days of learning began. This early training wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic rituals. It was rooted in observation, discipline, and patience, because the art of rainmaking could never be rushed. The elders would constantly remind them, the sky answers only to understanding, not to desire. Each day started at dawn with a walk through the fields. It was a lesson in listening. Listening to the hum of insects, the rustle of leaves, the subtle, almost imperceptible shifts in the wind. The earth and the sky spoke in tones that were barely audible to an untrained ear. But for a rainmaker in training, every single whisper was vital. They were learning a new language, the language of the land itself. Apprentices learned to track clouds from their very first appearance on the horizon. They had to understand that not all clouds promised rain. Some were mere illusions, beautiful but empty. Others were just preludes to storms happening far, far away. The elders taught that clouds weren't just water in motion. They were carriers of ancestral messages, omens, and lessons. You had to learn to read them with both your heart and your mind. Let's pause here for a moment. Imagine the fire crackling gently as the night breathes around us. A hawk circles lazily above the hills, and the air carries that distinct scent of dry earth, just waiting for rain. Every step of the apprentice's training unfolded like a conversation with nature. Each small gesture, each quiet moment, weaving patience directly into the soul. The physical demands of this early training were considerable. It wasn't just about watching the sky. Apprentices walked long distances, sometimes for days, across hills and plains. They would carry herbs, ritual tools, or water from distant, sacred streams. Sunburn, insect bites, and sheer fatigue were their constant companions. But these hardships weren't punishments. They were lessons. They taught resilience and grounded the apprentices in the raw reality of the land they served. The elders watched everything carefully, correcting a student's posture, guiding their breathing, and constantly reinforcing the essential connection between the body and the spirit. A critical part of the training involved learning the sacred songs and chants. These weren't just tunes to pass the time. Each melody, each specific rhythm, was coded with ancient knowledge of clouds, winds, and the nature of water. The apprentice would practice for hours, sometimes for days on end, until the chants could be performed without conscious thought. The body had to remember what the mind might forget in a moment of pressure. Music wasn't entertainment. It was a powerful medium through which the very spirits of rain were invoked and spoken to. This trial by observation extended to the practical skill of predicting rain. An apprentice would be asked to anticipate the coming of a storm based on the most subtle signs. The specific scent of the air, the unique behavior of birds, the way certain leaves would curl, or even the pitch of the hum from a bee's nest. Mistakes were not just expected, they were instructive. Every misjudged cloud, every misread wind, was a precious opportunity to refine their perception. The elders often reminded them that failure was never shameful. It was simply part of learning to respect the immense forces at play. During this stage, the social dimension of the training also became more pronounced. The villagers were quietly aware of the apprentices' progress. They would watch with a mixture of hope and, at times, skepticism. Every observation and every action of the apprentice started to matter on a community level because their eventual success or failure would directly affect everyone's welfare. This heavy sense of responsibility was internalized slowly, patiently, like water soaking into parched earth. Let's pause again for a moment. The fire crackles, and the hills and valleys stretch out into the darkness. To the young trainee, every ripple in the grass seems to murmur a word of encouragement or a quiet warning. Even the wind feels like a teacher here, imparting its ancient lessons in patience, humility, and absolute attentiveness. The elders would also introduce the apprentices to the mystical tools of rainmaking. These were not ordinary objects. They were small staffs carved with ancestral symbols, special bowls for holding consecrated water, and herbs and beads strung in intricate patterns representing clouds and storms. Each item carried immense significance and had to be treated with the utmost reverence. The simple act of handling them taught respect, mindfulness, and the true gravity of the role the apprentice would one day assume. Seclusion was often a part of this process. An apprentice might spend several nights alone in a secluded hut or a small enclosure, far from the village. There, their only task was to listen to the wind, feel the coolness of the night air on their skin, and reflect on the signs of nature they had learned to read. These solitary moments encouraged deep introspection. They taught the apprentice to discern between true instinct, careful observation, and mere imagination. In this quiet, the boundary between the visible world and the invisible world slowly began to blur. Early rituals were also taught through the power of story. Elders would recount the deeds of legendary rainmakers from generations past, the dangers they faced, the incredible storms they summoned, and the delicate balance they fought to maintain. These stories were never simple tales for entertainment. They were lessons in courage, patience, and responsibility. Through these powerful narratives, the apprentice learned not just the mechanics of the art, but the entire philosophy of rainmaking. Let's pause one last time. The fire crackles gently. The hillsides glow faintly in the twilight, and you can almost imagine the apprentice's breath syncing with the slow, steady rhythm of the land. Every animal sound, every whisper of the leaves, becomes a teacher. Each day's journey folds quietly and seamlessly into the next. Over time, the physical, spiritual, and social trials gradually became intertwined. The apprentice might be asked to gather water from a source miles away during a severe dry spell, or to stand and chant beneath a threatening storm, maintaining perfect composure as lightning flashed around them. Success in these trials depended on the complete coordination of all their senses, and the elders' gentle, constant guidance ensured that mistakes never led to discouragement, only to deeper learning. By the end of this long, formative stage, the apprentice began to embody qualities that went far beyond mere skill. They now possessed a deep attentiveness, an unwavering patience, a profound humility, and a keen awareness of the unseen world. The first seeds of true mastery had been sown, but the path was only just beginning. The sky had been listened to, the wind heeded, and the land observed. And in this newfound harmony, the apprentice finally began to understand the true weight of the responsibility they would one day bear for their people. All right, let's dive back into the heart of our story, picking up right where we left off. You know, after the initial groundwork is laid, the journey of an apprentice takes a fascinating turn. It stops being about constant instruction and starts transforming into something much deeper, a profound attunement with the world around them. At this advanced stage, the elders, those wise custodians of ancient knowledge, don't hover or guide every single movement anymore. Instead, they become quiet observers. They stepped back, allowing the apprentice the space, and frankly, the opportunity to discover those incredibly subtle yet profound truths entirely for themselves. It's like learning to ride a bike. Eventually, the training wheels have to come off so you can truly feel the balance. Think about it. Every single action, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, now carries a deep, resonant significance. From the way the apprentice walks through the bush, their feet barely disturbing a leaf, to the gentle, almost meditative way they stir water in a simple bowl. Each gesture is a lesson, a connection. They're not just performing tasks. They're learning to feel the very rhythm of the land, to understand it as an extension of their own being, their own heartbeat. It's truly incredible. By this point, our apprentice isn't just seeing the wind and clouds. They're understanding their language. They can sense the nuanced weight of the humidity in the air, feel the precise direction of a gentle breeze, or even perceive the faint, almost invisible shimmer of heat rising from the dry earth. Every single day becomes a living, breathing dialogue with nature itself. And what's fascinating is how mistakes are reframed here. They aren't seen as failures, but as vital lessons, deeply absorbed. A sudden, unexpected gust of wind. That's a lesson in patience. A cloud that delays its rain. A profound lesson in humility. Nature becomes the greatest teacher of all. Now, let's just pause for a moment, shall we? Imagine this scene with me. The fire crackles so gently, almost as if it's whispering secrets, as the vast, open night breathes all around us. The hillsides, usually so stark, are now draped in this soft, silvery moonlight, painting the landscape in shades of silver and deep indigo. The silence isn't empty. It's full, filled with the slow, deliberate, almost ancient breathing of the earth itself. And it's in this profound quiet, this deep stillness, that the apprentice starts to hear whispers that others simply cannot perceive. It's as if the very land itself is speaking, pouring its ancient wisdom directly through the heart of the one who truly, deeply listens. It's a magical, almost spiritual experience. This is also when things get even more intricate. Advanced rituals are introduced, guiding the apprentice into the subtle, powerful manipulations of energy and intention. They learn to focus their thoughts with laser precision, to control their breath in rhythmic patterns, and to move with an almost dance-like motion, all harmonizing perfectly with the natural elements. The chants, which were once simpler, now become incredibly intricate, layered with multiple harmonies and complex rhythms that mirror the sheer power and complexity of storms themselves. Each chant isn't just a song. It's a living map, meticulously guiding both the practitioner and these unseen forces towards a delicate, essential balance. It's truly a performance of deep spiritual connection, and the tools of the craft, oh, they take on a whole new level of significance. Simple bowls, sturdy staffs, delicate beads, they're no longer just instruments. They transform into powerful conduits, carrying intention, ancient ancestral wisdom, and vital energy. The apprentice learns to feel their weight, not just physically in their hands, but spiritually in their very soul. Handling these sacred objects demands a calm, unwavering mind, steady, deliberate hands, and a heart that is finely attuned to both a respectful fear and a profound reverence. It's about becoming one with the tools, truly. Then come the trials, which grow much more complex and carry a deep social significance for the community. The apprentice might be asked to lead a smaller ritual, perhaps before the assembled elders, showcasing their growing command over the intricate chants and their ability to align with the subtle weather signs, and the villagers, sometimes quietly observing from a distance, aren't just measuring technique. No, they're looking for something far deeper. The inner calm, the unwavering focus that marks a true, budding rainmaker. Confidence, yes, but always tempered by profound humility, becomes just as essential as pure skill. Let's pause for just another moment here. The fire still crackles gently, a comforting presence as the night truly breathes around us. A distant owl lets out its haunting call, and the soft whisper of leaves in the breeze reminds the apprentice of those invisible, intricate threads connecting absolutely every element. The soil beneath their feet, the vital water, the vast sky above, and, crucially, human intent. This profound awareness, this deep understanding of interconnectedness, is the absolute bedrock of true mastery. It's about seeing the whole picture. During this transformative stage, apprentices are also taught a crucial new skill: how to interpret dreams and visions. The elders explain that the night, often overlooked, holds messages just as vital and informative as the day's observations. Imagine this: a dream of surging rivers, or perhaps of majestic gathering clouds, or even of animals behaving unusually. These aren't just random images. They could reveal crucial insights into upcoming rainfall patterns, or signal important adjustments needed in the meticulous ritual preparations. The apprentice diligently records these powerful visions, not just in their memory, but sometimes in secret, symbolic markings, understanding deeply that their interpretation requires both immense wisdom and careful discretion. It's a language all its own. Another truly vital lesson revolves around communal responsibility. Our apprentice learns that rainmaking, despite much of the learning being a solitary, internal journey, is never, ever a solitary art in its actual practice. Think about it. The very welfare of the entire village, the health of their precious crops, the survival of their livestock, a significant part of all this rests squarely in their hands. The immense weight of this responsibility isn't just given, it's cultivated deliberately, slowly, day by day. carefully transforming a young trainee into a profound guardian of both the sky above and the soil below. It's a heavy, yet honorable, burden. The elder Rainmakers also share powerful stories, not just of those who succeeded, but also of ancestors who, despite their best efforts, sometimes failed. These tales are incredibly important. They emphasize the very human limits when working with divine, powerful forces. These stories aren't just cautionary, they're deeply inspirational, teaching the apprentice a delicate yet powerful balance. Ambition with respect, decisive action with thoughtful reflection, and, most importantly, power with unwavering humility. It's about understanding your place in the grand scheme. Let's just pause one last time for a moment. The fire crackles, a steady heartbeat in the darkness. The vast Kalahari winds, though perhaps physically far away, feel present here, because the profound lessons of patience, of deep attentiveness, and of quiet strength echo across every single hill, through every gentle stream, and from every whispering tree. These are universal truths. By the absolute end of this incredibly demanding yet transformative stage, the apprentice is no longer simply learning. They are actively, profoundly, becoming a rainmaker in their very essence. Mastery, as they now understand it, isn't a single skill. It's a delicate, intricate weave of many threads. Profound skill, keen intuition, unwavering humility, and an unbreakable connection to the land and its people. Every single day, the apprentice feels themselves growing closer, understanding the complex rhythms of the clouds and the wind, the subtle, nuanced language of the earth, and those unseen powerful ties that bind the entire community to the sky above. And when the time finally comes, they will be truly ready to take their rightful place in that ancient, sacred circle of guardians. Those who can call upon the rain, not for personal glory, but for life itself. The first summoning was never a casual affair. It marked a powerful transition from simply learning to truly practicing. A delicate dance between fear, profound respect, and eager anticipation. The entire village gathered in hushed reverence at the sacred clearing, a powerful circle of ritual stones. Can you picture them? Each stone etched with the stories and wisdom of generations past, silent witnesses to countless rites. Smoke from small, intentional fires spiraled upwards, carrying the earthy scents of herbs and incense, gently weaving with the soft evening air. The elders taught that this smoke wasn't just a smell. It was both a protective shield and a guiding signal, beckoning spirits toward the ceremony while carefully keeping any imbalance at bay. It set the stage for something truly extraordinary. At the very heart of this ancient circle knelt the apprentice. Their heart, surprisingly steady, beat in harmony with the deep, resonant rhythm of the drums. Their breaths were slow, deliberate, perfectly attuned to the pulse of the land itself, a living, breathing entity. Around them, the elders began to intone their chants, their voices rising and falling in perfect harmony. A mesmerizing cadence like the gentle whisper of wind drifting over the hills. Every single word carried immense weight. Each pause a moment of profound alignment with forces far beyond what human eyes could typically perceive. It was a symphony of devotion, echoing through the twilight. Let's just pause for a moment and feel that atmosphere. The fire crackles gently, a warm, flickering heart in the growing dusk as the night breathes softly around us. Look up. The stars above seem to perfectly mirror the sacred circle below, as if heaven itself is leaning in, drawn closer to witness this ancient rite. The apprentice feels the deep gravity of expectation, but it's not a crushing pressure. Instead, it's a gentle, steadying weight, grounding them rather than hindering their spirit. It's the weight of purpose, of lineage, of profound connection. Before any invocation could even begin, the apprentice meticulously performed the ancient preparatory rites. First, a cleansing in sacred water, washing away all distractions and impurities. Then, heartfelt offerings of millet and roots were carefully laid out, a gesture of gratitude and humility. And finally, a silent, solemn pledge to serve not themselves, but the people, the community, and the precious land they called home. Every single gesture, from the humble act of dipping fingers into the sacred water to the delicate scattering of grains upon the earth, was a conversation with their ancestors, a reverent handshake with powerful forces that could neither be fully seen nor entirely controlled. It was a dance of respect and understanding. As night deepened around the village, the first chants began to rise from the apprentice. Initially, they were tentative, exploratory, almost a whisper. But the elder's guidance was subtle, yet incredibly strong, like the gentle, unwavering tug of a river guiding a single leaf along its destined course. Slowly, confidently, the rhythm of the drums and the apprentice's voice merged, weaving together to form a living, breathing tapestry of sound that reached upwards, stretching into the vast, star-studded skies. The air around them felt heavier, thick with anticipation. Yet there was also a profound sense of calm, that quiet, expectant hush just before the unseen breath of rain touches the earth. It was a moment charged with potential. The first sign of a response from the spirits often came in the subtlest of ways. A whisper of wind rustling through the leaves, a gentle movement of clouds across the moon, or perhaps even the faint, almost imperceptible shimmer of moisture in the cool evening air. To an ordinary, untrained eye, these might seem like simple, natural occurrences, easily dismissed. But to the apprentice, with their heightened awareness and deep spiritual connection, these were not random events. They were a clear, unmistakable dialogue, a direct acknowledgement from the very forces they sought to summon. Each signal was interpreted with extreme care, never assumed, always deeply respected. It was a language spoken by the earth and the sky. Let's pause here again, letting the ancient wisdom settle. The fire continues its gentle crackle, a comforting sound as the night truly embraces us. Shadows dance and sway along the ritual stones, casting ancient patterns, and the wind. Oh, the wind seems to carry the faintest, most ethereal echoes of chants from ancestors who have long since passed into legend. The apprentice feels profoundly connected, a vital link in an unbroken chain, yet they remain keenly aware of their own human limits. It's a delicate balance of power and humility, a realization that true strength lies in understanding your place within the grand design. The elders, with their years of wisdom and experience, constantly emphasized one core principle above all else: humility. Even in the smallest, most promising responses from the spirits, the apprentice was continuously reminded that the rain, the life-giving water, was never truly theirs to command. It was, and always would be, a gift, a negotiation, a profound conversation that demanded unwavering patience and absolute integrity. They knew that even minor missteps, a fleeting moment of arrogance or disrespect, could disrupt the delicate balance. The consequences of such errors were vividly taught through powerful stories of past apprentices who had forgotten this sacred reverence. Stories that served as vital, cautionary tales, reinforcing the sacredness of their role. Once these precious signs of acknowledgement clearly appeared, the ceremony deepened, growing in intensity and focus. The apprentice was meticulously guided through a series of precise ancient movements, sweeping, graceful gestures with a ceremonial staff. carefully tracing powerful symbols into the very earth beneath their feet and reciting ancient invocations in the sacred tones of their Venda ancestors. Every single motion was perfectly harmonized with the resonating sound of the chants and the unwavering intention held within their heart, forming a powerful triad of influence, mind, body, and spirit, all aligning towards the singular, monumental goal of drawing life-giving moisture from the vast sky down to the thirsty land. It was a magnificent dance of purpose. From a respectful distance, the villagers observed in absolute silence, their faces etched with a mix of hope and anticipation. Their entire reliance on the Rainmaker, their faith in this sacred connection, was almost palpable, hanging heavy in the air. The success of this ceremony was not just about the crops or the livestock. It was about the collective faith, the very spirit of their community. The apprentice fully internalized this immense weight, understanding with crystal clarity that true mastery was utterly inseparable from profound responsibility. They carried the hopes of generations on their young shoulders. Let's take another breath and let the magic of this moment seep in. The fire continues to crackle, its gentle song a constant presence as the night breathes deeply around us, alive with unseen forces. The ancient trees surrounding the clearing bend ever so slightly with the wind, as if in silent acknowledgement of the powerful ceremony unfolding beneath their watchful branches. And in the distance, the majestic hills seem to lean closer, bearing silent witness to this sacred pact between humanity and the divine. The apprentice's heart now beats in perfect harmony with the steady rhythm of the drums and the soft, knowing whispers of the leaves, a silent, powerful pact between human spirit and divine forces. As the ceremony slowly, gracefully drew towards its close, sometimes, if the spirits truly favored them, the first drops of rain would appear. Subtle, tentative, almost like a whispered blessing gently carried through the rustling canopy of leaves. When they did, the apprentice would immediately kneel, head bowed in profound gratitude, offering thanks both aloud to the heavens and silently within their heart. They understood, with a deep and humbling clarity, that the precious gift of water was never a reward for their skill or power. It was, and always would be, a direct, compassionate response to their unwavering reverence and perfect alignment with the natural world. The first summoning was now complete, but it was far from an end. In fact, it was only the very beginning. The apprentice now carried a profound and weighty knowledge within them that their actions, every gesture, every chant, held immense meaning and potential consequences. They understood, with an awakened heart, that the sacred connection to the land and to their ancestors was both incredibly fragile and astonishingly profound. This night was an awakening, a pivotal step into a long and distinguished lineage of responsibility and power, a lineage that demanded respect above all else forevermore. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our journey into the fascinating world of ancient traditions. Today, we're diving deeper, past the initial steps, into the heart of something truly profound, the full moon rituals of the Venda Rainmakers. If you thought the first summoning was powerful, get ready, because this is where the magic really intensifies. Imagine this, the full moon, a luminous pearl in the velvet sky, casting its ethereal glow over the rolling hills and valleys of Venda. This wasn't just any night. It marked a time of heightened ritual, a sacred period when the veil between our world and the unseen realms grew incredibly thin. It's a time of immense spiritual energy, a true nexus point. The apprentices, now much more familiar with the initial summoning, gathered once again under the watchful eyes and wise guidance of the senior Rainmakers. You could feel the shift in them. Their movements were more confident, their voices steadier, echoing with newfound purpose. Yet, the weight of responsibility hadn't lessened. In fact, it had only deepened. They understood now that every chant, every single gesture, carried the power not just to nourish the land, but also to risk inviting imbalance if not performed with utmost care and respect. This wasn't just practice, it was a living prayer. The moonlight, soft and silver, draped itself like a sacred cloth over the ceremonial circle. It illuminated intricate patterns etched into the very soil, patterns that had been there for generations, connecting them to an ancient lineage. Each symbol wasn't just a drawing. It had a profound purpose, a mark of ancestry, a silent call for balance, a humble prayer for humility. The elders, their faces etched with wisdom, instructed the apprentices to trace these symbols slowly, deliberately, with focused intention. And as they did, they chanted in perfect harmony with the rhythmic pulse of the lunar cycle. These weren't simple chants. They were intricate tapestries of sound and intent, weaving themselves directly into the very fabric of the night itself, a powerful dialogue with the universe. The deeper chants they learned weren't just about repetition. They were deeply meditative, a profound dialogue with forces older than human memory, reaching back to the very dawn of time. The apprentices were taught to truly listen. To listen to the echoes of their own voices within the sacred circle, yes, but also to sense the subtle shifts in the wind, the gentle changes in temperature, even the delicate smell of wet earth in the air. Each nuance, each tiny detail was a response, a clear sign that the ritual had begun to resonate beyond their human perception, reaching out into the wider world. Let's just pause for a moment and really soak this in. The fire, a living heart in the darkness, crackles gently, its warmth a comfort as the vast night breathes around us. The stars above shimmer with a quiet, ancient intensity, reflecting the incredible discipline and unwavering devotion of those below. You can almost feel it. The apprentices feeling their own breath falling into harmony with the entire universe. A rhythm that carries deep meaning in the eloquent language of wind, earth, and water. It's a connection that transcends words. The full moon rituals weren't just about deepening existing practices, they also introduced entirely new tools, each one imbued with meaning and power. Sacred staffs, carved with reverence from ancient, venerable trees whose roots reached deep into the earth. Calabashes, smooth and hollowed, filled with precious ritual water, each drop a symbol of life and purification. And ceremonial beads, carefully strung, each one representing a fundamental element of nature, a tiny piece of the cosmos in their hands. Every single object was treated as if it were alive, a living entity, each carrying a fragment of ancestral knowledge, a whisper from those who came before. The Rainmakers meticulously taught the apprentices how to channel their pure intention through these powerful tools, guiding the elements without ever attempting to command them. It was a profound lesson in respect, acknowledging that the ultimate power belonged to the vast forces they sought to honor, not to themselves. Just picture it, Venda apprentices, standing tall and focused, holding these beautifully carved staffs and calabashes. The moonlight, a silver painter reflecting off the ceremonial beads, each one a tiny beacon. And the elders, pillars of wisdom and experience, supervising from the very edge of the circle. Their presence a grounding force, their eyes missing nothing. As the night deepened, the chants grew longer, more complex, their voices intertwining beautifully with the rhythmic beats of drums and the natural symphony of the night itself. The rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze, the soft whisper of the wind weaving through the trees, the distant, haunting cry of nocturnal animals. Every sound became an offering, a unique note in the grand symphony of the ritual. Sometimes, mist would mysteriously curl along the ground, as if drawn directly from the deep, living earth itself. Responding to the harmony created above, the apprentices weren't taught to see these phenomena as mere magic, but as powerful evidence of balance restored, a gentle yet firm reminder that every single action, every intention, carried a profound consequence. Let's just pause again for a moment here. The fire continues its gentle crackle, a constant companion as the night breathes around us. The shadows of the ancient trees stretch long and imposing, like silent, steadfast guardians watching over everything. The air feels dense, thick with potential, carrying the faint, sweet scent of rain yet to come, a promise whispered on the breeze. The apprentices, their hearts open and minds sharp, begin to sense that their learning has transformed. It's no longer simple mimicry. It has become an intimate, living dialogue with the vibrant, breathing world around them. The villagers, deeply aware of these sacred rituals unfolding, often watched from respectful distances. Their hopes, their very survival, were inextricably tied to the success of the Rainmakers. Their faith in these traditions was both a powerful source of support and a quiet, ever-present pressure. A misstep, a moment of doubt, could shake that communal confidence, potentially unraveling years of trust. Yet, the careful, deliberate performance of each ritual reassured everyone, reinforcing the belief that balance, though delicate, could always be maintained. The apprentices absorbed this immense weight silently, internalizing the profound understanding that their role was deeply intertwined with communal trust and ultimately the survival of their people. It was a heavy, yet sacred burden. Picture them, the villagers, their faces illuminated by the full moon's soft glow, observing from the very edges of the ceremonial clearing. You can almost see the hope in their eyes, the quiet reverence, and beyond them, the distant hills, shrouded in the mystique of the night, standing as silent witnesses to these ancient practices. As the night progressed, moving towards its peak, the elders introduced even subtler, more intricate layers to the apprentices' training. They learned the art of harmonizing multiple chants simultaneously, creating a rich tapestry of sound. They practiced adjusting their movements, not just to the drums, but to the slow, majestic rhythm of the clouds drifting overhead. They learned to read the most delicate signs in the behavior of animals that might wander near the sacred circle, understanding that every living creature was a messenger. Every single detail mattered profoundly. The full moon ritual was, at its core, an advanced exercise in pure attentiveness, unwavering patience, and absolute precision. Mistakes were not met with punishment, but with gentle, guiding correction, emphasizing that true learning and profound respect were, and always would be, inseparable. Let's just pause one last time for a moment. The fire continues its gentle dance, sending flickering shadows across the faces gathered there as the night breathes on. The moonlight now glimmers like scattered diamonds on the dew-laden grass, making the clearing sparkle. And the apprentices, they feel a quiet thrill, a deep, profound satisfaction that comes from achieving perfect alignment with forces both visible and invisible, known and unknown. This powerful ritual, perhaps above all else, teaches them that power is not just might. It is an immense responsibility. And responsibility, in its truest form, is profound humility. As the ritual slowly, gracefully drew to its conclusion, something truly magical often happened. Small droplets of rain would sometimes begin to fall, initially soft, almost imperceptible, just a whisper on the wind, then gradually heavier, settling onto the clearing and the surrounding land with a gentle, life-giving kiss. A wave of gratitude, both silent and vocal, would wash over everyone. The apprentices would bow deeply, their hearts full, understanding that this incredible success was never a personal achievement. It was a collaborative resonance, a powerful symphony of shared intention, deep history, and unwavering devotion. It was a gift from the universe, earned through their collective effort. Imagine it, the gentle rain, a blessing from above, falling softly over the ceremonial clearing. The apprentices, humbled and fulfilled, bowing in deep respect. The elders, their faces creased with wisdom, now beaming with quiet pride, a silent acknowledgement of a job well done. And the full moon, still shining bright overhead, a celestial witness to this ancient, beautiful connection. By the end of the full moon ritual, the apprentices had truly begun to internalize the very essence of rainmaking. It wasn't just a ceremony, not merely a skill to be mastered, but a living, breathing conversation. A conversation with the land itself, with their revered ancestors, and with their interconnected community. Their voices, their gestures, and most importantly, their hearts, had become finely tuned instruments, perfectly attuned to a rhythm that transcended time and even human comprehension. It was a journey into the soul of their world, as the rains of the last season finally receded, giving way to the heat of the returning dry months. The apprentices of the Venda Rainmakers began a profound new chapter in their training. They started to understand that their path was about so much more than ceremony. The weight of their future role, they were discovering, extended far beyond the sacred circle of ritual. Every chant they learned, every gesture they perfected, every whispered prayer sent to the sky was being watched, not just by the elders, whose eyes held generations of wisdom, but by every villager whose life and livelihood depended on the sky's mercy. This wasn't a role you could simply clock in and out of. It was a quiet, constant vigilance. It was a responsibility that stretched back through time, binding the apprentice to their ancestors, to the very land beneath their feet, and to the community that looked to them with a mixture of hope and fear. The trials they faced were designed to test both their spiritual connection and their practical skills. With the land growing thirstier each day, the apprentices were challenged in the very absence of rain. They had to predict the coming of clouds, not through guesswork, but by reading the subtle language of the world around them. They learned to interpret the texture of the soil, the direction and mood of the wind, and the intricate flight patterns of birds. Each prediction was a high-stakes test. A misjudgment wasn't just an academic failure. It could set off a ripple of real-world hardship. It could mean failing crops, granaries that remained empty, and a palpable anxiety that would spread through the village. Through these difficult trials, the young rainmakers learned a fundamental truth. Their role was inseparable from the well-being of the land and its people. They were not just performers of rituals. They were becoming custodians of life itself. The elders taught them that fear and reverence were twin guides on this path. The villagers respected the rainmakers, that was clear. But there was also a deep-seated fear. This wasn't just rooted in old superstitions. It was a practical fear, born from the reality that the rainmakers' success or failure directly impacted everyone's survival. The apprentices felt this immense weight every single day. They sensed that every decision they made, every prediction they offered, was met with both the community's trust and its intense scrutiny. But the elders would gently remind them that this fear wasn't a punishment. It was a constant, necessary reminder of the sacred trust they had been chosen to bear, a reminder of the gravity of their purpose. Let's pause here for a moment. Imagine the scene. The fire crackles softly as the cool night breathes around us. The air carries the scent of dry grass and the faint, hopeful smell of distant waterholes. In this quiet, the apprentices feel the gravity of their role settling upon their shoulders like the evening dew. They are learning one of life's most important lessons, that power without humility is dangerous, and intention without genuine care is utterly hollow. Beyond prediction, the apprentices were also tested in times of outright crisis. A prolonged drought that stretched hope to its breaking point, a sudden and violent thunderstorm that threatened to destroy what little was growing, or crops that began to fail despite their best. Efforts all demanded an immediate and powerful ritual response. In these moments, the apprentices were often sent out, sometimes alone, sometimes in pairs, to summon the rain. They had to rely on everything they had learned, the memorized chants, their sharpened intuition, and the silent, guiding wisdom of their elders, which they carried within them. These moments were the ultimate tests of truth, where their skill, their courage, and their spiritual attunement were all weighed in the balance. Success would be met not with loud fanfare, but with the quiet, profound celebration of a community given another chance. Failure, however, demanded deep reflection, correction of their methods, and a renewed sense of humility before the great powers of nature. The challenges were compounded by intense social expectations. Each village didn't just depend on the Rainmakers for physical survival. They relied on them for a sense of continuity, for the very rhythm of life. Important festivals, the timing of the harvest, and other communal events were all planned around the predicted rains. Entire families shared the burden of hope and fear, investing their collective trust in these young, unproven apprentices. The students quickly learned that their work was never a private affair. It was deeply entwined with the communal heartbeat, and every success, every misstep, affected the entire village. Let's pause again. The fire crackles, a steady, comforting sound in the vast darkness. Children are sleeping peacefully beneath their thatched roofs, blissfully unaware of the immense vigilance that shields them from uncertainty. But the apprentices, they are wide awake. They can almost feel the invisible threads connecting them to every single life in the village, to every tender sprout pushing through the dry soil, and to every cloud waiting patiently beyond the horizon. The elders consistently reinforced the lesson of ancestral guidance. When an apprentice faltered or failed, it was not a moment for shame. Instead, it was an opportunity to seek counsel, both from the living elders and from the spirits of those who came before. They would be guided to meditate, to listen for the ancestral voices in the rustling leaves and the sighing wind, and to reflect deeply on the intentions that guided their hearts. Was their desire for rain pure? Was it for the good of the community, or was it tainted by a desire for personal glory? Through this introspective process, the apprentices came to realize that rainmaking wasn't a one-way command to the heavens. It was a dialogue, a delicate and beautiful blending of inherited wisdom, personal integrity, and a careful, respectful observation of the natural world. As the seasons continued to turn, the apprentices discovered that their sacred responsibility required a profound sense of balance. They had to learn the balance between taking action and practicing patience, between the rigid precision of ceremony and the fluid, intuitive response to a changing world. They had to walk the fine line between the healthy fear that kept them humble and the unwavering hope that fueled their work. The trials were many, and they were difficult, but each one contributed to a deeper, more nuanced understanding that the gift of rain was inseparable from humility, from discipline, and from a deep, abiding respect for all of life. By the end of these intensive trials, something fundamental had shifted within them. The apprentices began to embrace a vision of rainmaking not as a form of control over nature, but as an act of stewardship. They finally understood that each rainfall wasn't a personal triumph of their skill alone. It was a harmonious convergence of forces. The will of the ancestors, the collective hope of the community, and the life force of the living land itself. They had learned the hardest and most beautiful truth of their calling. To be a rainmaker was to carry the sky's memory, the earth's pulse, and the hearts of the people all at once. All right, let's dive back into the heart of the Limpopo Basin, where the ancient art of rainmaking is passed down from generation to generation. If you've ever wondered how secrets as profound as rainfall are understood and even influenced, you're in for a treat. These aren't just old tales. They're living traditions, encoded in movements as ancient as the hills themselves. Imagine chants that echo the very voices of ancestors, and gestures that mirror the majestic rise and fall of clouds right over the Limpopo. It's truly incredible. Apprentices here, from a very young age, learn to sense the most subtle changes in their environment. Think about it. The shimmering heat dancing on the horizon, that faint, almost imperceptible scent of wet soil just before a storm, or the suddenly restless behavior of animals. These aren't just random observations. They are the language of nature, speaking through a sacred lens. It's like nature's own secret code, and these rainmakers are the decoders. Picture a young Venda Rainmaker, perhaps under a rising moon, performing a ritual. You can almost see the intricate patterns being drawn in the sand, with ancestor symbols faintly visible on nearby stones. Every detail, every movement has meaning. Now, let's talk about the mystical tools of the rainmakers. These are far more than just props. They are powerful conduits, each imbued with symbolic meaning that connects deeply to the natural world. Take the small gourds, for instance. They might hold water from the last successful ritual, symbolizing an unbroken chain of continuity and success. Then there are the feathers, delicate yet potent, indicating the wind's direction and the unseen spirits that guide it. And the carved sticks, often shaped like lightning or the winding paths of river bends, aren't just pretty ornaments. They're tactile reminders of cosmic forces helping to channel that energy. Apprentices spend countless hours practicing endlessly, learning to wield these tools with such precision, mindfulness, and a deep reverence that is truly inspiring. Let's pause for a moment and just breathe with the night. The fire crackles gently, painting dancing shadows around us, and the night air itself seems to be breathing. The wind stirs through the trees, carrying whispers of water yet to fall, promises of life-giving rain. And the young rainmakers, right there, feel the pulse of the land beneath their feet, connecting with something ancient and profound. Chants, oh, the chants. They are absolutely central to every ceremony. But they aren't just sung, they are spoken with the very rhythm of rainfall itself. Sometimes it's slow and steady, like a gentle drizzle beginning to kiss the thirsty earth. Other times, it rises in powerful crescendos, building up like a summer storm, vibrant and full of energy. The language is Venda, rich and melodic, layered with incredible metaphors drawn from rushing rivers, majestic clouds, and the daily movement of the sun across the sky. To an untrained ear, it might sound like a beautiful, simple song, but every single phrase carries intention, direction, and a spiritual resonance that connects the physical world with the unseen. Imagine a group of Venda Rainmakers on a hilltop, arms raised to the sky, their shadows stretching long under the starlight, and you can almost feel the energy, sensing a distant storm beginning to form on the horizon in response to their powerful calls. What these apprentices quickly learn is that the efficacy of a chant is unclear about how loud it is or how many times it's repeated. It's about presence. A hesitant gesture, a mind that's distracted, even for a moment, could break that sacred thread of communion with the ancestors and with nature. This is why meditation, unwavering focus, and impeccable moral integrity become just as essential as any technical skill. They come to realize that the mystical elements of rainmaking demand a complete alignment of body, mind, and spirit, a powerful triad as fundamental as the earth, water, and sky themselves. It's a holistic practice that asks for everything from its practitioners. Let's pause again. The fire crackles softly, a comforting sound as the night breathes around us. The stars above seem to pulse, almost in response to the chants, as if acknowledging the profound connection being made. The horizon is dark with expectation, and the apprentices sense, deep in their bones, that they are active participants in a story that began long before their own birth, a timeless dance between humanity and the elements. Nature itself responds to these rituals, but in incredibly subtle ways. Birds might suddenly alter their flight paths. Insects could gather in unusual, almost patterned formations, and you might see clouds shifting, almost imperceptibly, in the far distance. These aren't just random occurrences. These signs are interpreted with immense care. A darkening sky might indeed indicate approaching rain, but it could also signal a misalignment, a slight imbalance in the ritual itself. Apprentices learn patience, reading each cue with a profound humility. They begin to understand that true mastery isn't about forcing the clouds to yield rain, but about harmonizing with them, working in sync with the natural rhythms of the world. Imagine a Venda apprentice, eyes keen, observing a sudden shift in the clouds during a ritual. Insects hovering in intricate patterns, and a faint flash of distant lightning, all contributing to this complex dialogue. Through all these mystical practices, the apprentices are taught the immense ethical weight of their power. This isn't magic for personal gain or glory. The Rainmakers' magic is a sacred service to their community, a vital preservation of balance within the natural world. They learn that misuse, negligence, or even simple hubris could have dire consequences, harming the land, angering the ancestors, or eroding the sacred trust they hold. Stories are recounted, tales of rainmakers who failed or misused their power, serving as powerful cautionary lessons. These stories reinforce the sacred responsibility that is inherent in every single action they take. Every chant they utter, every gesture they make. Let's pause once more. The fire crackles gently, a warm heart in the cool night. The air is thick with anticipation, and the apprentices truly understand that each chant, each careful gesture, and even each silent pause is part of a grand dialogue with forces that are neither fully visible nor fully comprehensible. It's a conversation with the cosmos itself. By the close of these early, profound lessons, the apprentices grasp a truth both deeply practical and profoundly spiritual. The mystical elements of rainmaking are not just symbols, tools, or guides. They are a living bridge to their ancestors, a continuous, vital dialogue with nature, and a robust framework for ethical living. Mastery, they discover, requires not just skill, but humility, unwavering attention, and an abiding respect for the delicate balance that sustains both the land and its people. It's a journey of lifelong learning, connecting deeply with the world around them. For the Venda Rainmakers, rain was never just a physical event. It was a sacred conversation, a living dialogue between the sky and the earth, between the ancestors and the living. This understanding was expressed through the ceremonial dance of clouds, a profound ritual that wove together movement, rhythm, and intention. Imagine it atop a hill, with the wind catching flowing skirts and feathered adornments. The dancers begin their movements as storm clouds gather on the horizon. Every step, every sweep of an arm, and every sway of the body was a mirror to the ebb and flow of rainfall. To an outsider, the dance might seem silent, its meaning hidden. But for those trained in its ancient codes, it was a language as articulate as any spoken word. Apprentices learned that the choreography was deliberate, a kinesthetic map of their world. The movements traced the winding course of rivers, the rise of sun-heated winds that carried moisture, and the jagged patterns of lightning arcs across the sky. This was both art and science, a physical expression of deep ecological knowledge. Elders would guide the novices with gentle corrections, not scolding, but shaping. They emphasized grace, precision, and an inner sense of timing that couldn't be taught, only felt. The apprentices soon discovered that the true power of the dance wasn't in its spectacle, but in the heartfelt participation of each dancer. Every motion was charged with intention. Every rhythm resonated with spiritual energy. Let's pause for a moment. Picture the scene. The fire crackles gently, a warm heart in the cool night. The earth beneath the dancers' feet seems to hum softly, as if recognizing this ancient summons for rain. The wind, which was just a breeze moments ago, now carries the murmurs of ancestors from the distant hills, whispering their approval. The air itself feels charged, expectant. Music was not just a background to this ceremony. It was an integral part of the ritual itself. Drums, rattles, and the soft murmur of song punctuated each step, guiding the dancer's energy and building a bridge between the mortal and spiritual worlds. The drumming patterns were particularly significant as they mimicked the sound of rainfall. Sometimes the rhythm would be sparse and tentative, like the first few drops on dry leaves. Then it would build into a bold and cascading torrent, a powerful invocation of a downpour. The apprentice dancers learned to feel this rhythm deep in their bones, letting it guide their gestures and connect them to the ancestral currents that flowed through the land itself. You could see it in their synchronized steps as a thin mist began to rise from the ground, blurring the line between the earth and the sky. The costumes they wore were laden with symbolism. Feathered headdresses weren't just for decoration. They represented the wind and the birds, who were seen as messengers between the worlds. The patterned skirts depicted the curving currents of rivers and the contours of the terrain. The colors were chosen with careful intent. Rich ochres for the soil that would receive the rain, deep blues for the life-giving water itself, vibrant greens for the vegetation that would spring forth, and pure whites to honor the ancestral spirits who guided the ceremony. Every single detail, from the beads to the feathers, reinforced the profound connection between human action and natural response. It was a way of embedding ethical and ecological awareness directly into the fabric of the ritual. Let's pause again. The fire continues its gentle crackle as the night breathes around us. The dance goes on, shadows stretching and shrinking under the starlight. If you listen closely, it seems as if even the trees are swaying in silent agreement, joining the rhythm of this ancient, sacred rite. The world holds its breath, waiting. But this dance was more than just expressive. It was also diagnostic. The Rainmakers were keen observers, and the ritual was a way of heightening their senses. They watched for subtle changes in the environment, a sudden shift in the wind's direction, the way the leaves rustled on a particular tree, the flight patterns of birds returning to their nests. These were not random occurrences. They were interpreted as signs of the land's receptivity to their call. The dancers would adjust their motions accordingly, engaging in a dynamic feedback loop. If the wind grew stronger, their movements might become more expansive. If the air grew still, their dance might become more focused, more intense. Through this living conversation with nature, the apprentices learned a vital lesson. Their role was not to control the elements, but to mediate, to persuade, to be in harmony with them. They were participants in a cosmic dialogue, not commanders. An elder might nod in approval as a young dancer adjusted their stance in response to a sudden gust of wind, recognizing that the lesson had been truly understood. In the distance, the clouds would darken, a subtle but sure response. Beyond the physical movements and the ecological observations, the dance conveyed profound moral teachings. Each gesture, each pause, was tied to lessons of patience, humility, and communal responsibility. The young apprentices came to understand that real power came with restraint. The ability to call forth the rain was inseparable from the responsibility to act justly and wisely in all aspects of life. The elders would often remind them the land does not yield to arrogance. A misstep in the ritual, a moment of pride or distraction, could lead not only to a failed ceremony, but to real-world consequences: drought, famine, or a loss of trust from the community that depended on them. Let's pause one last time. The fire crackles, a steady heartbeat in the deepening night. The air is heavy now, thick with anticipation. The apprentices can feel the pulse of generations in their movements, a quiet, powerful reminder that they are part of a continuum. A chain of knowledge stretching back through time, far larger than themselves. They are not just dancing for their village. They are dancing with their ancestors. As the ceremonial dance reached its conclusion, the apprentices would often enter a period of quiet reflection. They would sit in silence, perhaps around a small fire, allowing the lessons of the day to settle within them. They would absorb the rhythms they had just enacted, sensing the pulse of the earth and the breath of the sky. In these quiet moments, the mystical and the tangible converged. The dance had taught them not only a technique for calling rain, but also a deeper way of being in the world. It taught them mindfulness, the ability to be fully present in the moment. It taught them foresight, the wisdom to understand the consequences of their actions. And most importantly, it instilled in them a profound appreciation for the delicate, intricate balance of life. Under a moonlit sky, with distant clouds promising the coming rain, they sat in contemplation, their shadows long on the ground. Through repeated practice, careful observation, and deep meditation, the ceremonial dance of clouds became second nature to them. It was no longer a set of steps to be memorized, but a language that flowed through them. Apprentices learned that each step carried power, and each pause held meaning, allowing the land and the ancestors time to respond. By mastering the dance, they were mastering the art of attuning themselves to both the seen and the unseen forces that governed the rain. In doing so, they sustained not just the crops and the cattle, but the very rhythm of village life, ensuring that the sacred dialogue between their people and their world would continue for generations to come. For the Venda Rainmakers, the ritual was never just a personal endeavor. Their actions carried the weight of entire communities. Fields of millet and sorghum, herds of goats and cattle, and the fragile health of families. Rain was life, and its absence could bring hardship, hunger, or even death. Villagers placed their trust, and sometimes their fear, into the hands of these spiritual mediators who walked the fine line between the human world and the forces of nature. Imagine the scene. Villagers gathered at the edge of a dry, cracked riverbed, their eyes fixed on the distant hilltops where the rainmakers performed their sacred duties. You can almost feel the collective anxiety hanging in the air, a silent prayer carried on the hot, dry wind. Each season, as the rains delayed or failed to arrive, the pressure mounted. The community's expectations were a heavy, often unspoken burden. It was communicated through anxious glances exchanged at the market, whispered conversations that quieted when a rainmaker passed, or small, hopeful offerings of grain or beer left at the threshold of their home. The elders, with the wisdom of many seasons, would remind their charges that failure wasn't always due to negligence. Some years, they would say, were governed by forces beyond any human control. Droughts sent by ancestors for reasons only they understood. Still, the fear of being blamed, or worse, of losing the community's trust, demanded constant vigilance, unwavering dedication, and meticulous attention to every detail of the ritual practice. This responsibility was not just about performing a ceremony, it was about holding the well-being of an entire village in your hands. Let's pause for a moment here. Imagine the scene. The fire crackles gently, its light dancing on the walls of the huts as the night breathes softly around us. The low hum of the elders' voices drifts across the village, teaching the young that responsibility is inseparable from care. They explain that every single drop of rain that falls is a testament to a delicate balance maintained not just by power, but by skill, patience, and profound respect for the world around them. It's crucial to remember that the Rainmakers themselves were deeply human. They weren't infallible deities. Doubt could creep into their minds, fatigue could weary their bodies, and illness could cloud their judgment just like anyone else. Even the most experienced and respected among them sometimes failed. In those moments of failure, fear and guilt were heavy, suffocating companions. Apprentices learned this lesson early on. Pride could blind you. It could make you believe you were the source of the power, not its conduit. Humility, they were taught, was essential to preserving not only their personal integrity, but more importantly, the well-being of the community that depended on them. Think of a weary rainmaker, sitting alone beside their ritual tools after a long, unsuccessful ceremony. The village is quiet behind them, but the silence is filled with tension. They look up at the sky, where clouds gather but refuse to break, and you can see the weight of the world in their posture. This is the human side of a sacred duty. Ceremonial mistakes or misinterpretations of signs from the ancestors could have devastating, far-reaching consequences. It wasn't just about a failed ritual. It was about the very real possibility that crops would wither in the fields before they could be harvested. It meant wells could run dry, forcing women and children to walk even further for a single gourd of water. It meant livestock, weakened by thirst, could wander off into the bush in a desperate search for water, never to return. The villagers' livelihoods were completely intertwined with the Rainmakers' skill and focus. The pressure to succeed was therefore immense, and it was ever present, a constant hum beneath the surface of daily life. Stories circulated around the evening firestales of past failures and glorious triumphs. These weren't just entertainment, they were vital lessons. They served as cautionary tales for the apprentices, warning them of the dangers of arrogance or distraction. They also served as templates for ethical, disciplined practice, reminding everyone of the standards set by the great Rainmakers of the past. The legacy of their ancestors was a blueprint for survival. Let's pause again for a moment. The fire crackles, a steady, comforting sound in the deep quiet of the night. The children are asleep in their huts, their dreams untroubled. They are blissfully unaware of the unseen rituals being performed on the distant hills, rituals whose success will directly shape the meals they eat tomorrow. The freshness of the water in their cups and the safety of the animals in their families' kraal. Their peaceful sleep is a direct result of the Rainmakers' heavy burden. The intricate web of social dynamics also played a huge role in shaping the Rainmakers' work. This wasn't just a spiritual practice. It was deeply embedded in the social fabric of the community. Some families, grateful for past successes that had saved their crops or herds, would offer additional support, perhaps a goat or extra bags of grain. This was a sign of respect, and a way of strengthening the bond between the family and the spiritual practitioner. But human nature being what it is, rivalries and jealousy could flare up. If one rainmaker was seen as more potent or successful than another, it could create tension and division within the village. Therefore, maintaining respect and impartiality was as critical a skill as interpreting the patterns of the clouds or knowing the right herbs for an offering. The rainmaker had to navigate not only the powerful forces of nature, but also the subtle, often treacherous, currents of human expectation, village politics, and family allegiances. They had to be a leader, a diplomat, and a spiritual guide all at once, ensuring the community remained united in its purpose. The elders would watch these interactions closely, their approval a silent but powerful endorsement of a rainmaker's wisdom. In many ways, the fear of failure was both a powerful motivator and a profound teacher. It was a constant companion, but one that could be harnessed for good. Apprentices were mentored to channel their anxiety into a state of heightened focus. They learned to quiet their minds and observe the land with incredible sensitivity to notice the subtle change in the wind's direction, the behavior of certain insects, or the specific way the leaves on the trees curled. They learned to perform the rituals not as a mechanical process, but with deep care, intention, and precision in every single step. Mistakes, when they happened, weren't causes for despair, but were treated as invaluable lessons. They were dissected and discussed with the elders to understand what went wrong. And successes weren't met with boastful pride, but with humble celebrations that acknowledged the ancestors and the forces of nature. This delicate balance of responsibility and humility was reinforced in every chant, every offering, and every step of the sacred dance. Let's pause one last time. The fire crackles, its embers glowing in the dark. The entire village holds its breath with each ritual. They feel a collective hope, a shared vulnerability. The wind, which was once a dry, hot enemy, now becomes a messenger, carrying their prayers, their intentions, and their hopes up to the waiting clouds on the horizon. It is a moment of profound connection between the people, their spiritual leader, and the vast, mysterious sky. Ultimately, the immense social stakes of rainmaking ensured that the discipline remained both sacred and deeply accountable. This wasn't a practice that could be done in isolation or for personal gain. The rainmaker's work was inseparable from the survival, the prosperity, and the spiritual health of their people. It was through this shared dependence, this mutual vulnerability, that the ritual was elevated beyond personal ambition. It became a communal covenant, a sacred promise. It formed an unbroken chain of trust, linking the ancestors of the past, the practitioners of the present, and the villagers of the future across countless generations. Their work wasn't just about making rain, it was about holding their world together. The legacy of the Venda Rainmakers was never written down in books. It was a living, breathing thread, woven between the past and the present. Each master, each elder, carried the teachings of countless generations, inscribed not on paper, but in memory, in gesture, and in the rhythm of their own heartbeats. These lessons were often subtle, almost imperceptible to the untrained Ajar, slight tilt of the head, the measured, deliberate pace of a dance, the precise timing of a chant that had to rise and fall with the wind itself. The apprentices learned a profound truth from their very first day. The spirits of their ancestors were always watching, guiding, and judging every movement, every word, every breath taken during the sacred ceremonies. To falter was not just a personal failure, it was a disruption of a sacred connection. The path to becoming a rainmaker was not open to all. Apprentices were chosen with immense care. It wasn't just about skill or courage, though those were important. What the elders looked for was a specific temperament, a deep, abiding respect for tradition, and an innate attunement to the rhythms of nature. A candidate had to feel the land's thirst in their own throat and hear the whispers of the clouds before they gathered. The selection itself was a sacred act, often guided by divination, by reading omens in the sky, or through the quiet counsel of the most senior practitioners. Those who were called to this profound responsibility were bound to a life of devotion, humility, and constant observation. To serve as a rainmaker was to serve two masters simultaneously: the earth beneath their feet and the ancestors who had walked these very lands long. Before the first village huts dotted the horizon, let's just pause here for a moment. Imagine us sitting around a crackling fire as the night breathes around us. The hum of insects, a constant chorus, and the distant call of a nocturnal animal are the only sounds accompanying the quiet teachings of the elders. This is the environment of learning, where every sound and every silence reinforces the intimate, unbreakable connection between the ritual and the world it seeks to influence. This is where knowledge truly comes alive. The transfer of this sacred knowledge was never hurried. It was a process that demanded immense patience and endless repetition, like water smoothing a stone over centuries. Apprentices would spend years, sometimes decades, simply learning the songs, the intricate dances, and the powerful incantations. They had to memorize the subtle cues of the clouds, their shape, their color, their speed. They learned to read the direction of the wind and understand the flight patterns of birds that foretold the coming of rain. Mistakes were a part of the journey, but they were corrected with gentle care. The goal was always understanding over fear. With every successful observation, with every correctly interpreted sign, the apprentices' confidence grew, and their sense of purpose became as solid as the ancient baobab trees that watched over them. At the very heart of every ritual was the connection to the ancestors. The Venda Rainmakers believed that each act of summoning rain was, more profoundly, an act of communion with the spirits who had walked the land for centuries. Every offering of beer or grain, every chant that rose into the air, and every gesture of the dance was designed to honor those ancestors, invoking their guidance and their blessing. By learning these ancient practices, the apprentices were transforming themselves. They were becoming living conduits for ancestral wisdom, bridging the vast temporal gap between human effort and divine influence. They were learning to speak a language that transcended time itself. Let's pause again. The fire crackles, sending sparks up into the darkness. The night feels thick, heavy, yet it's filled with an unseen presence. It's as if each shadow in the firelight carries the weight, the memory of all those who came before. In this space, the past is not gone. It is simply listening. This mystical legacy also had a very practical, earthly purpose. It reinforced the cohesion of the entire community. The teachings of the Rainmakers were a precious treasure, but they were never hoarded for personal power. This knowledge was shared, selectively and responsibly, with a single, unified goal to ensure that the village, the crops, and the animals could not just survive, but thrive. The elders instilled in their apprentices a powerful ethic of care. They taught that the knowledge of rain was not a weapon to be wielded for pride or for gain. It was a sacred trust, a tool to uphold life itself. The Rainmakers' success was the community's success. Their failure was the community's suffering. Stories were a vital part of this education. Tales of past Rainmakers served as both powerful inspiration and solemn warnings. The apprentices would hear stories of triumph, of legendary figures who broke devastating droughts and blessed the land with life-giving water, making the rivers flow and the fields green again. But these were always paired with cautionary tale stories of hubris or neglect. of ceremonies that went awry because of arrogance or a lack of focus, leading to prolonged suffering for the entire village. These stories became their moral compasses, teaching the apprentices that every action, every thought, resonated far beyond the individual. Each decision could shape the fate of many and, crucially, influence the favor of the ancestors. Let's take one more moment of quiet. The fire crackles on each glowing ember seems to hold a story, and each breath of wind that rustles the leaves whispers the lessons of those who have passed. This is how memory is kept alive, not in stone, but in the elements themselves, by grounding each new generation in ritual, in observation, and in deep respect. The mystical legacy of the Venda Rainmakers remained an unbroken chain. Even as the world around them began to change, their profound connection to the earth, to their ancestors, and to their community preserved a continuity that transcended time. This wasn't just about clinging to tradition for its own sake. It was a living, breathing covenant, a sacred agreement where knowledge, responsibility, and spirituality all converged for one purpose: to sustain both the land and its people. It was a promise made to the past, kept in the present, for the sake of the future. For a Venda Rainmaker, the art of summoning rain wasn't just about grand, dramatic ceremonies. It was a constant, intricate dance with the spiritual world, woven into the very fabric of daily life. Ritual wasn't an event. It was a way of being. Every single day was filled with subtle practices designed to maintain the delicate harmony between the people, the land, and the unseen forces that governed them. Imagine the quiet moments just as the sun begins to paint the horizon. This wasn't just another sunrise. For the Rainmaker, it was a sacred time. They would approach the riverbank, the heartline of the community, and present offerings. Perhaps it was a small portion of grain, a libation of traditional beer, or a whispered prayer carried on the morning mist. Simple gestures, yes, but profound in their meaning. They were acknowledgments to the spirits watching over the hills, the rivers, and the fertile fields. As the sun set, this act of reverence was repeated, closing the day with gratitude and respect. Even the mundane task of tending to the sacred tools, the polished staffs, the resonant drums, the ancient talismans, was a ritual in itself. Each wipe, each touch, was an act of attunement, a way of keeping the connection to ancestral guidance clear and strong. The seasons, of course, dictated the rhythm of life and the focus of the Rainmaker's duties. Long before modern meteorology, these spiritual leaders were expert observers of the natural world. They studied the shapes and movements of cloud formations, learning to read them like a sacred text. They felt the subtle shifts in wind patterns on their skin and understood what they foretold. They watched the behavior of animals, the frantic activity of ants, the flight patterns of birds, recognizing these as signs of impending drought or flood. Their knowledge was a living encyclopedia of the land. When the planting season arrived, the rituals intensified. This was a time of immense hope and vulnerability. The entire community looked to the Rainmaker. The elders would lead powerful dances, their feet stomping the dry earth, awakening its potential. Their chants would rise into the air, a collective prayer sent to the ancestors, asking for their blessing on every single seed that was placed in the ground. And when the harvest came, a time of celebration and relief, the rituals shifted to thanksgiving. Ceremonies were held to honor the ancestors for their protection and for the sustenance the land had provided. Let's pause for a moment. Imagine we are there. The fire crackles gently, a warm, living presence as the cool night breathes around us. The breeze carries the earthy scent of dry grass and the distinct, hopeful smell of rain that is yet to come, mingling with the distant, comforting hum of village life. It's in these moments of quiet connection that the true weight of the Rainmaker's responsibility can be felt. The role of the Rainmaker extended far beyond the weather. They were the spiritual heart of the community, tasked with healing, mediating, and protecting their people. When illness struck a family, they brought their worries to the Rainmaker. When disputes arose between neighbors, threatening to tear the fabric of the village, it was the Rainmaker who was sought for guidance. When anxieties about the future crept in, people came seeking comfort, rooted in deep spiritual understanding. Their knowledge was both mystical and intensely practical. They knew which herbs could soothe a fever or calm a troubled mind, grinding them with practiced hands beside a warm clay hearth. They knew which prayers could alleviate fear and restore a sense of peace. And they knew which specific chants and rhythms could restore balance, not just in the atmosphere, but within the human heart and the community itself. In this way, ritual was completely intertwined with everyday survival. It wasn't just about abstract beliefs. It was about tangible well-being, reinforcing the Rainmaker's essential place at the very center of community life. Celestial events and the monthly cycles of the moon were just as important as the turning of the seasons. The Rainmaker's calendar was mapped not by numbers, but by the heavens. The phases of the moon, from the slender new moon to the brilliant full moon, and the alignment of the stars marked specific times for particular ceremonies. Even the passage of certain migratory birds across the sky was a signal, a celestial memo that a ritual was due. Some of these observances were grand, public affairs involving the entire village in a shared expression of faith and hope. Dancers would move in unison, their voices joined in a single, powerful chant that echoed across the valleys. But other rituals were intensely private, reserved only for the elders and their chosen apprentices. These were the times when the deepest, most sacred knowledge was passed down, spoken in hushed tones around a secluded fire. Each of these ceremonies, whether public or private, served a vital purpose to reinforce the unbreakable link between the cycles of nature and the responsibility of humanity. It was a constant lesson in respect, teaching every generation to honor both the visible earth and the unseen forces that governed it. Let's pause again for a moment. Listen, the fire crackles gently, a steady rhythm against the breathing darkness of the night. If you listen closely, you might imagine you can hear the measured beat of distant drums and the faint echo of a chant carried on the wind. It sounds like a heartbeat, a pulse connecting the past to the present, the ancestors to the living. Beyond their daily and seasonal duties, Rainmakers were the living libraries of their culture. They were entrusted with preserving the sacred knowledge of language, song, and movement. This was not a casual responsibility. Every single word in a ritual chant was deliberate, chosen for its specific vibration and power. Every step in a ceremonial dance was imbued with layers of symbolic meaning, telling stories of creation, of ancestors, and of the bond with the land. Apprentices, chosen for their spiritual sensitivity and dedication, underwent rigorous training. They had to learn to perform these complex rituals flawlessly. It was understood that even a minor deviation, a misspoken word, a faltering step, could disrupt the delicate harmony with the ancestors and the natural world. This wasn't about rigid perfectionism. It was about devotion. Precision was a form of prayer. Complete attentiveness was a form of worship. In mastering the ritual, the apprentice wasn't just learning a sequence of actions. They were learning to become a stable, reliable conduit for spiritual energy. The Rainmaker's calendar was a dense tapestry of obligations, a constant cycle of observation and action. During a drought, their work would intensify dramatically. Ceremonies became more frequent, more powerful, demanding immense physical and spiritual energy. When severe storms threatened the village, the Rainmaker's duty was to observe, to communicate with the storm's spirit, and to perform rituals to guide its energy away from the homes and fields, to soften its rage. And in the quiet times, the periods of balance between planting and harvest, there was no idleness. These times were for reflection, for study, for communing with the ancestors, and for preparing the tools and the spirit for whatever the future might hold. Each of these activities, from the most intense ceremony to the quietest moment of study, served to strengthen the community's trust. They were a constant, visible demonstration of the Rainmaker's commitment. Through these repeated, meticulous actions, the moral, spiritual, and practical foundations of the society were reinforced, ensuring its resilience and continuity. And through this unwavering dedication, the power of the Rainmaker remained relevant, alive, and deeply respected from one generation to the next. Let's pause one last time. Feel the warmth of the fire. The night is full of sound, but it is a peaceful sound. Every rustle of the tall grass, every distant call of a night animal, carries meaning for those who know how to listen. It's a profound reminder that the work of the Rainmaker is never truly done. Vigilance, respect, and care are not tasks to be completed. They are a constant state of being. Ultimately, these daily and seasonal rituals were the bridge connecting the mundane world of human existence to the sacred, timeless world of spirit. A Venda Rainmaker was never idle because, in their understanding, no action was without significance. Every gesture, every spoken word, every careful observation was a thread in the larger ritual of life itself. Life was a ceremony, and through their extraordinary diligence, their profound reverence, and their hard-won mastery, the Rainmakers ensured that the rains would come, the land would thrive, and the sacred bonds with the ancestors would remain forever unbroken. Choosing a successor wasn't just a big decision. It was the most sacred responsibility a Rainmaker could ever undertake. Imagine the weight of that choice. It wasn't about picking the most popular or the loudest apprentice. Oh no, not all apprentices were equal. Some had a natural gift, a spark, while others were incredibly diligent, working harder than anyone. And honestly, a few, despite their best efforts, would just never grasp the subtle, intricate rhythms of the spirits, the deep connections required for this profound role. The selection process itself was guided by something far beyond logic. Intuition, spiritual signs that would appear, and perhaps most importantly, the wisdom and counsel of their ancestors. It was a journey of discernment, a slow unfolding rather than a quick decision. Once that special individual was chosen, their real work began. They entered a period of incredibly intensive mentorship. And let me tell you, this was no casual, once-a-week kind of instruction. Every single ritual, every chant, every movement, each detail was repeated, practiced, and refined until it became second nature, a part of their very being. Mistakes weren't just brushed aside. They were corrected with immense patience. Yes, but also with a deep sense of gravity. Why? Because even small errors, tiny missteps, could potentially disrupt the delicate, intricate balance between the spiritual world and the natural world, affecting the entire community. Through this rigorous hands-on training, the apprentice learned far more than just techniques. They learned humility, an essential understanding of their place within the grand scheme of things. They learned unwavering focus, vital for connecting with the unseen. And they cultivated true devotion, essential traits for a role that carried such immense responsibility. A responsibility that literally held the life of their community in its balance. Let's just pause for a moment here. Imagine with me The fire crackles gently beside us as the night breathes softly round. The wind whispers through the leaves, and if you listen closely, you can almost hear it carrying the secrets, the wisdom, the very essence of generations past. It's a powerful reminder that legacy isn't just something we receive. It's both a precious gift and a profound duty, something we carry forward with respect and care. But the passing of knowledge went far beyond just learning techniques and rituals. It encompassed something much deeper: stories, histories, and the accumulated wisdom of countless ancestors. The elders would recount tales of how rainmakers had guided their community through the harshest droughts, through devastating floods, and even through pestilence that threatened their crops and livestock. These narratives weren't just bedtime stories. They were infused with vital lessons, lessons of courage in the face of adversity, of endless patience when waiting for nature to respond, of ethical conduct that governed their interactions with the world, and most importantly, a profound reverence for all life. Apprentices absorbed not just the actions themselves, not just the how-to, but the entire ethos, the moral framework behind them. They understood that this role, this sacred duty, required moral integrity as much, if not more, than it required technical skill. It was about being a good human first, and a powerful rainmaker second. The formal recognition of a successor wasn't a private affair. It was a momentous public ceremony that brought the entire community together. Villagers would gather, often traveling long distances, to witness this incredible transition, this passing of the torch. They offered their heartfelt blessings, sang traditional songs, and provided a public acknowledgement of the immense responsibility now entrusted to the new rainmaker. It was a beautiful, collective affirmation. The community's support wasn't just symbolic. It reinforced a sacred social contract, a powerful bond. The rainmaker serves the people, dedicating their life and energy to their well-being. And in return, the people honor the rainmaker's work, their sacrifices, and their vital connection to the spiritual world. This exchange, this deep mutual understanding, bound society together, strengthening trust, fostering profound respect, and nurturing a powerful sense of mutual responsibility among everyone. Let's just take another moment. Close your eyes and listen. The fire crackles gently, a comforting sound in the stillness of the night. The distant, rhythmic hum of cicadas joins the gentle ripple of a nearby stream, a constant, soothing melody. It reminds us that life continues, ever flowing, ever renewing, a continuous cycle of existence, just like the rain itself. Even after the formal passing of the mantle, the mentorship didn't simply end. Oh no, it continued in a beautiful, ongoing way. The elders remained vital advisors, quiet guides who were always there, ready to offer wisdom and support in moments of doubt, during times of illness, or when facing challenging droughts. The new rainmaker's mastery deepened over many, many years, combining the inherited wisdom passed down through generations with their own personal insights and experiences. They learned to trust their own connection, their own intuition, while always honoring the path laid before them. In this way, the incredible lineage of Venda Rainmakers persisted, resilient against the relentless march of time, against misfortune, and against the inevitable changes that life brings. It was a living, breathing tradition, constantly adapting, yet always true to its roots. Through all these profound practices, the spiritual and social legacy of the Venda Rainmakers endured, strong and vibrant. Each successor didn't just inherit a title, they carried the immense weight of generations past, the hopes and dreams of the land itself, and the constant whispers of their ancestors guiding their path. The rains they summoned weren't just water falling from the sky. They nourished the vital crops, replenished the essential water holes, and quite literally sustained life itself for their entire community. Their work was more than just a duty. It was a living bridge, connecting heaven and earth, linking the past with the future, and weaving together the visible world with the unseen spiritual realm. It's a testament to belief, connection, and profound dedication. Let's pause one last time. The fire crackles gently beside us, a warm, comforting glow in the deepening night. In this quiet, sacred space, the apprentice, now becoming the master, feels the steady pulse of the earth beneath their feet, the gentle, guiding breath of the ancestors all around them. There's a calm, profound assurance that their tradition, this incredible legacy, will continue flowing onward, nourishing generations to come. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Under Baobab Skies. Tonight, we're drawing our journey to a close, reflecting on a profound and ancient wisdom that has sustained communities for generations. As the evening sky deepens around us, painted with countless stars, we can almost feel the quiet pulse of the land itself. The air is alive with the scent of damp earth, the distant whisper of burning wood, and the sweet perfume of wildflowers. It's a timeless symphony, reminding us that life's rhythm is eternal, always shifting between seasons, between drought and deluge, between hardship and abundance. For the Venda Rainmakers, this pulse was their very lifeblood. They dedicated their existence to interpreting these invisible signs, guiding water to fall where it was needed most, nurturing not just crops, but the very hearts and spirits of their people. To walk the path of a rainmaker was to embrace responsibility in its deepest, most sacred form. It was a life woven with devotion, quiet observation, and an unbreakable bond with forces far older than any living memory. Every chant, every dance, each carefully chosen ritual, tool, and sacred gesture wasn't just an action. It was a note in a grand song spanning centuries. A song that carried ancestral wisdom across the vast landscape, whispering through the generations. The Rainmaker's work, you see, was never just asterisk about bringing the rain. It was about something far grander: harmony, trust, and a deep reverence for life itself. Let's pause for a moment. Can you hear the gentle crackle of a fire? Feel the night breathing around us. The soft patter of distant rain reminds us that even the smallest, most consistent acts, performed with care and intention, ripple outwards, nourishing so much more than just our immediate world. The continuity of this profound knowledge was safeguarded through secret ceremonies, careful selection of apprentices, and the steady, patient passing down of wisdom. It's a lineage preserved through humility and the gentle, watchful guidance of elders. Even beyond human sight, the spirits were listening. They responded not to force or greed, but to sincere hearts, deep respect, and the profound understanding that the balance of all life truly depends on every single being playing its part, big or small. Imagine the young apprentices diligently practicing ancient ritual movements, their faces earnest under the watchful, knowing gaze of their elders, as gentle rain falls over cultivated fields and village rooftops. The villagers themselves were an integral part of this intricate rhythm. Their unwavering faith, their boundless support, and their dedicated care for the land not only strengthened the Rainmaker's role, but also bound the community together. Every single raindrop that fell was a blessing. It fed families, replenished vital rivers, and sustained their precious herds and fields. And when the harsh spectre of drought loomed large, threatening everything, The communal spirit itself transformed into a hidden reservoir of resilience. It became the wellspring of hope, bolstering spirits, even when the sky remained stubbornly, heartbreakingly dry. Let's pause once more. The fire crackles softly, the leaves rustle in the breeze, and a distant owl calls. In the quiet of the night air, we can almost hear the echoes of countless generations who listened, who learned, and who revered the powerful forces that move our world. The legacy of the Venda Rainmakers wasn't confined to their beautiful ceremonies alone. It was profoundly rooted in the enduring, unbreakable connection between people, land, and spirit. Every apprentice who courageously took up the mantle continued this sacred duty, seamlessly blending their personal insights with the inherited wisdom passed down through time. The Rainmakers' work was a quiet triumph, a powerful testament to human dedication to both the natural and the spiritual realms alike. As the night deepens, listen closely, and you might just hear the land itself breathing, its rhythm of life intimately intertwined with the gentle fall of rain, the glorious rise of the sun, and the steady, unstoppable passage of generations. In these moments, it becomes crystal clear that the Rainmakers were never merely humans performing rituals. They were, and are, stewards of a living, breathing legacy, a profound bridge between the seen and the unseen, connecting the present with the ancient past. Soft, inspiring music begins to swell gently. Imagine dawn breaking over the Venda Hills now, mist rising like silent spirits from the valleys. The Rainmakers, their work done, walk back from their ritual sites, and in the villages below, life begins anew. Villagers emerge, ready to begin their daily activities, their faces reflecting the hope and gratitude that comes with each new day. And so, as the embers of our ceremonial fire dim and the first birds of morning stir, we are left to reflect on the delicate balance maintained by these incredible guardians of the skies. The Rainmakers remind us, with quiet power, that responsibility, humility, and reverence are not abstract ideas to be debated. They are living principles, as essential and life-giving as water falling softly on thirsty earth. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey. We hope you've been as moved and inspired by these stories as we have. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient wisdom, please hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more tales from cultures around the world. We appreciate your support more than words can say. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and stay wonderful. You are under Baobab Skies.